to the Late Late Show with me, Samantha. How are you this evening?
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
So, how have you been? What have you been up to today? Barbecue? Racing romp across the fields? Play date maybe? Not obviously for yourself, thinking your kids there. Or dogs. I have a dog, would love to do a play date. Feel there's an industry there, but hey, who knows? So, whatever you've been doing, I hope you've had a good one. I have too. Hear that? A little bit of blackberry gin. Yum,
This
yum.
is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, everyone. So I've had a nice day, as I was saying, although I had to go into school for 3.5 hours this morning. I say I had to. I didn't have to. I decided to. And that's because the kids, as many of you are aware, have their exams next week. And I've still got kids asking, Miss, is this going to be on the paper? I'm getting to the point where I feel like I am doing more revision for this than you are. So a little bit of a 3.5 hour stint this morning. So I was feeling a little bit sorry for myself driving in at 8 o'clock this morning. And then I got to work and realized there's 4 teachers there already, with pretty much the half of year 9 all getting ready for D&E training. So I began to feel a bit better about my option. Grateful, almost, I'd say. It's all relative. And also amazing kids coming in. 15 of them turned up today. It was a beautiful day here. It was an early start for them. One of them even cancelled his ticket to see Stoke football. So, very impressive with them. And I hope they got something out of it. And I don't know about where you are, but here in my little corner of the UK, it has been lovely. Blue sky, fluffy clouds. It made this morning a little bit harder, I'm not going to lie. And when I came home, took a walk out with the dog, wild garlic, smell of lilac, cowslips are out. We have this beautiful little walk through the woods. Little butterflies, saw an orange and a white one, just beautiful. And this is finally May weather. This is how it's supposed to be. I'm so pleased. Will it last though? Have to see. Hopefully it will stay good for the bank holiday. If you've got one, yes, not all of us teachers have a bank holiday. Independent schools don't tend to have one. And so if you are one of those lonely souls driving or walking into work on the abandoned roads this coming Monday, I sympathise, I really do. Although it makes the traffic in quite good, so there's a benefit. Also, we've got the early July holidays, so personally I think it's worth it. Anyway, whatever you're up to, I hope you have a good one. I'm going to share with you this evening some teacher hacks, and I'd love to hear yours. If you're listening on the Podbean app, you can message me here at Teacher Talk Radio. You can even call in. I'd love to hear from you. And what I'd like to hear today is, how do you keep organised? How do you keep sane, efficient, balanced? What are your little tricks? Is it empty cans holding table legs together? What are your tried and tested hacks for smoothing the road to teacher nirvana? But before we start, let's hear the news and a lovely word from our sponsors.
I've always considered myself to be a caring head teacher who acts sensitively to support staff mental health. But what I found increasingly difficult was managing the negative impact on staff mental health when resolving issues related to their employment or daily work. Heartfelt Leadership has been developed by Teachwell Toolkit as a handbook to support head teachers to overcome the challenges of school improvement while supporting staff well-being. We know that difficult conversations can quickly turn into conflict if procedures are not fully transparent, understood and followed. Our handbook takes you through step-by-step processes while maintaining mutual respect, avoiding conflict and finding solutions.
At Bloomsbury Education, we're passionate about supporting teachers with high-quality professional development books from leading experts. Whether you're navigating your first crucial years as an early career teacher or a more experienced teacher looking to refresh your practice or take a step up into leadership, our award-winning books are here to help. We publish practical books to support teaching across primary and secondary, from the very best in research-led practice to trusted advice on inclusivity, behaviour and curriculum design. Visit the Bloomsbury Education website at bloomsbury.com/education to find out more and use code BLOOMTTR24 to save 20% on all education titles. Bloomsbury Education, books for every step of your teaching journey.
This is Teachers Talk Radio News with John Gibbs. The first story this week is once again Ofsted. Following last week's news that, contrary to advice from the cross-party committee in the House of Commons, the government would persist with single-word assessments of schools. This week, Ofsted Chief Sir Martin Oliver announced that he would like Ofsted inspections to feel more like a peer review. At the Schools and Academies show on the 2nd of May, Sir Martin indicated that Ofsted had embarked on a reform journey, and he further noted that he wanted Ofsted inspections to feel like, in some ways, a peer review system. While Ofsted and Sir Martin have launched the Big Listen consultation, a group of former Ofsted inspectors, academics, experienced teachers and head teachers, led by Professor Colin Richards and Frank Norris MBE, have launched the alternative Big Listen. They've set up their own website and are accepting responses and views from across the education world. The 50% rule in English faith school admissions, introduced in 2010, stipulating that where newly established academies with a religious character are oversubscribed, at least 50% of their places would be open places, i.e. allocated without reference to faith, is to be scrapped in plans announced by the government. The government also plans to allow churches and religious groups to open faith-based schools for children with special educational needs, which campaigners warned could raise ethical issues. Proposals to scrap the 50% cap, which only applies when schools have more applicants than places, are opposed by Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, on the grounds that it would be divisive and likely to penalise disadvantaged children by denying them access to local schools. While the government believes that faith-based schools give parents greater choice, encourage better behaviour and also academic outcomes, Andrew Coxton, the Chief Executive of Humanist UK, is quoted as saying, "The proposal to allow 100% religious discrimination in new state faith schools will increase religious and racial segregation." Teaching assistants are again in the news this week. While recent stories of their declining numbers, their stagnating pay, have been regular features of the news, this week a survey reported in Secondary Education News involving 6,000 teaching assistants in England and Wales found that 39% are covering classes for at least 5 hours a week. A further 15% say they are leading full classes for at least 11 hours a week. National guidance states that support staff should not actively teach any classes they cover, but 75% of the teaching assistants said they have ended up teaching rather than supervising. Astria Academy Trust, which controls 26 schools in the Yorkshire and Cambridgeshire area, is seeking to hire a new executive head teacher on a salary between $116,000 and $133,000 a year. These salaries might seem generous in the light that the St Ivo Academy, a secondary school in St Ives and run by the Trust, is making cuts for classroom resources, but it should also be placed in the light that the new executive principal position comes with 3 layers of management above it, Above the new executive principal would be Secondary Regional Director for Cambridgeshire, Jo Mayhill Johnson. Above her, in the Trust's hierarchy, sits Richard Tutt, its Director for Secondary Education, and above him, Rowena Hackwood, Astria's Chief Executive. And the number of Astria's employees paid at least $100,000 a year has increased from 7 to 10 from 2022 to 2023. It is reported that Ofqual have warned that exam results, GCSE and A-level, will be down this year. This will be the result of the return to pre-pandemic conditions, meaning candidates had no prior warning of what might be coming up in the exams, and the lost learning that resulted from the COVID pandemic. In an interview in Education Week, the statistician Dennis Sherwood once again stated his view that A-level and GCSE grades are only reliable to one grade either way. If you wish to listen to interviews with Dennis Sherwood, you can find them in the Teachers Talk Radio back catalogue, or follow many of these news items on the weekly review on Sunday mornings. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with John Gibbs. Thank you for listening.
Okay, welcome back. So tonight we are going to be discussing teacher hacks. How do you keep organised? How do you keep efficient? How do you keep your week on track in the classroom and outside? So if you're listening on the Podbean app, I'd love to hear from you. You can message me at Teacher Talk Radio. You can even call in this evening. So get involved. Let's hear what you got to say. So we're going to think about some different kind of hacks, different areas of teaching, thinking maybe organisational. So how do we prepare? How do we manage it in the classroom? What about holidays even? You can also think maybe about AI and IT. How well are you using those? I'm just getting started with the AI. Not going to lie, I'm finding my way through a little bit carefully and cautiously at the moment. So if you've got some top tips on that, we'd love to hear from you. And behaviour. Now, this is one, again, I think I could definitely do with anyone out there who's got some good hacks on behaviour. Maybe you've read something recently, maybe you've seen something, maybe you've heard something on Teacher Talk Radio. If you have, let us know. What are your hacks for behaviour? And time management. Oh my goodness, how often as teachers are we saying there is never enough time in the day, in the week, in the month, in the term? So what are your hacks for keeping on top of time management? I got a couple to share with you. And then finally, well-being. How do you keep balanced? Mental health is a massive issue, and not just for our students, but increasingly for teachers. I've got a little treat coming up for you towards the end of the session this evening. We're going to hear from a hypnotherapist. He's going to give us a little guided meditation and talk us through the art of keeping balanced and chill, zen on this Saturday night. I'm sure we could all do with a little bit of that. Am I right? Okay, well, let's start then with organizational teacher hacks. Getting organized. I have to say, if I didn't spend time over the summer holidays organizing myself, I would be a mess in the first term. So as soon as it gets to August, I like to have July off. As soon as it gets to August, I really have to knuckle down a bit. And to be fair, I kind of like it. I like just getting the diary sorted out ahead of time, going through, listing in all the parents' evenings, all the lessons. What I tend to do, and this is something I picked up from an admin team, she used to send around a calendar of the term ahead. It was really helpful. It was on a Word document. So I stole it and I used it to put my own department preparation in. So as head of department, I wanted to make sure the whole team knew when are our parents' evenings coming up, when are we prepared to do Key Stage 3 assessments, when are we going to do interim, kind of what we call significant writings, just so the kids feel prepared for the assessments, when are we going to grade those. Of course, it's all suggested. I don't want to be too prescriptive here. But things like exam dates, the trips coming up, when a kid's going to be off on a geography trip, all of year 10, when is that happening? Just so we can plan ahead. And I have to say, I put that ahead for the whole year, and it does just make me feel very calm. Just having that in the front of my planner, and also the joy of crossing off each week as you do it. And it makes me feel just a lot more in control of what I'm doing. So I think that would be a real sort of teacher hack for me. I just feel it eases some of that stress. So let's have a think about other things then you can do during the term. And again, if you're listening and you've got any ideas, if you're listening on Podbean, please get in touch. How do you keep organized and on top of your work? One thing I would say when you're planning, I don't know what you use for your lessons, PowerPoint, OneNote, Google Docs, but one thing I do is try and number the files so that when they're going into the folders, so for example, we're really big in our department. Oh my goodness, I just said our department. We're really big in our department on numbering files and using and sharing. And so by numbering them, we can easily see, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. And if you've got something that you want for lesson 1 that's an alternative, we call it 1A, 1B, 1C. And that just keeps everything nice and in line. So I'm a real fan of that. Works on Google as well. But I think on Google Docs, you have to do 0, 1, 0, 2. Don't ask me why, but otherwise it doesn't sort of work numerically. I also get the kids, we use OneNote at our school, and I get the kids to number their OneNote pages and number those folders as well. So again, they can sort alphabetically. If you're used to using OneNote, you'll see there's a little alphabetical sort list at the top. And again, it just helps them keep everything in place. Other things for the classroom then. So exercise books in class boxes. Now, I'm sure a lot of you do this. It took me a while to realize the idea of not just having little neat piles that didn't always stay so neat. So now I've got some boxes, picks them up from Amazon. Other retailers are available. And just now keep, 7A class books in a little neat steel folder, 7B next to them. Makes it a lot easier just to kids to go and find their books, for me to hand them out. I also tend to put sheets in there as well, so that if students are away and they need the sheets, they can help themselves. Let's have a think once the students are getting in then. So one thing I tend to do, and I think lots and lots of people do this, right, because it's very much recommended, is this idea of a sort of fun but challenging starter once the students get available. In the maths department in our school, they have a little booklet, or a series of booklets actually, differentiated booklets. The students come and choose which booklet they'd like to have a go at. And they have these up at the front of the classroom every lesson. Teacher comes in, starts the register, does whatever he's or she's got to do to get the class settled. But the students have got into this practice of going straight up to the front, helping themselves to their booklets, their choice of differentiated booklets they want to take, and on they get. Geography teacher in the room next to me, he always starts the lesson with, I don't know if you have heard of Blooket. It's like a quiz, but it's great. He's got them set up. Students come in, device is open, and Blooket, he's got it up on his screen, but he doesn't have to manage anything. It's kind of self-managing. If you use Blooket, you'll be well aware of how that works. Students love it. They love the Gold Quest one, where you can steal gold from each other. And it just allows him a minute to kind of take the register, get himself prepped, deal with any issues that students arriving late, etc. So there's a couple of things there. Right, so we're talking teacher hacks this evening. We're talking some organisational ones for outside the class, inside the classroom. Have you got any you'd like to share with us? If you have, and you're listening on the Podbeam app, you can message me here at Teacher Talk Radio. You can even call in. Really love to hear from you, so let's get that conversation started. Okay, let's thinking about some other hacks. And again, these are really kind of simple, straightforward ones. No kind of genius revelation going on here, I'm afraid, but just things I do that I think I'd like to share with you. When students are leaving the classroom, so again, this is one I've just been doing for the last couple of years, and I find it works really well. I immediately stand by the door before they leave, and I hold my hands out, and that's so that every student that leaves can hand me their book or their workbook or whatever they're using before they leave the room. It gives me a chance to individually say goodbye to each student, thank you to the student, also check few little things like uniform as they're leaving. And it also means I don't have that awful thing of going to mark books and thinking, oh, where is Zach's book? He's got it with him. No, he hasn't, because Zach had to hand it in to me before he left. So that's a little tip I'd share for you if you're ever in that position of trying to mark and realizing that some of them have walked off with their book. The other thing I'd say about students leaving the room is, and I'll probably mention this one again because I'll forget I've said it, is also students leaving the room in the order of their uniform correctness. So at our school, we have lanyards, and I don't know about you, but the kids absolutely hate wearing their lanyards. I don't blame them, to be honest, because I think trying to play football with a lanyard can't be easy. And the students have to put these on before they leave the classroom. If they don't have their lanyard, then you're not going out first. Stay back and let this person through because they're dressed well, tie's done up, excellent, you go out. And this kind of approach really works well just before break, as you can imagine, because they're all desperate to get out. Okay, but anyway, I'm taking a little sideline there. Let's go back to organisations. Know your photocopier. So important. And I think, again, this is one where it's just some teachers are photocopier pros, other teachers not so great. But I would definitely recommend spending a bit of time just getting to know the options button on a photocopier. What can it do? Come in a little bit early one day, or maybe even at the beginning or the end of term, and just play around with the options button. I have, since teaching, decided I absolutely love booklets. I'm using the booklet button a lot. You can make little A4 size booklets. You can make A5 booklets. We have put all our Key Stage 3, what we call topic reviews, but I guess they're just end of year assessments. We're not fooling anyone with topic reviews. The kids know it. We know it. And we started to put those all in a booklet. So the very first topic review of the year, right the way down to the last one, it's all in a single booklet. We can put our writing frame tips in there. We can put a little guideline so the students can kind of monitor their progress as they go through. It works for us because the topic assessments we give are not revision ones. So I don't want to test knowledge. I don't want to test, no, that's not correct. I want to test the deployment of knowledge. What I don't want to test is whether a student actually did their homework and revised. So for me as a teacher, I want to be able to see how well are their skills progressing, how well are they deploying the knowledge in the way that we're trying to get them to do. So we keep all our topic assessments together in one booklet, and it's just great for the kids, I think, to be able to see the progress they're making throughout the term and indeed the year. They can flick back to previous targets. We're trying to get them or encourage them to write their previous target after a kind of feedback session with them on the new piece of work. So every time they do a new topic assessment, we'll say, right, go back, have a look at your targets from the previous one, write those at the top of this page so it just stays kind of really top of your mind. I'm trying to get my A-level students to do that as well. You know, look back at the previous work, write that target at the top of this next piece of work. And I think that's a really good way of, because I find I invest a lot of time into what we call dirt, you know, this feedback session, and it seems great. And then a couple of weeks later, you'll hand out the next piece of work and the same sort of mistakes are cropping up. So it's a good way of refreshing them. Talking of photocopying, scanners on photocopiers, you probably have one too. I'm trying to get into the habit of every time I make a photocopy of a great, article for GCSE or A-level, I'm trying to get myself into the habit of scanning it and then saving it to file so I can use it again instead of having to find it again every single year. I wait till I get to the lesson, I click on it, and then I think, oh God, yes, that article. And if I've been clever, I've recorded the name of the article and the file number. If I haven't, then I've got to do a bit of searching around for it. So now I'm going to try and scan those articles in, make sure they're on file nice and easy, so they can be incorporated into OneNote or put on some kind of platform for students. We use Firefly at our school so that they can kind of get easy access to them. And talking of all things files, it's a tiny little thing, but if you are making a new file, I used to spend time clicking open, just literally new file. You're making a new file, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and then you've got to save it to the right place. And I never used to bother with that. I always used to leave that as a tomorrow job. I'll eventually come round and I'll save that file into its location. But that's a real pain because you've got to go back and you've got to remember. So the tiny little thing is now whenever I'm going to create a new file, I go to the file location first, where I want it to be. And then I just right click and I click new file. You probably do it too. It's not, like I say, it's not genius, but it's such a simple thing. And it took me several years of realizing that was a much easier way to do my filing than letting it all build up and then having a massive kind of filing job to do, at the holidays. All right. Should we listen to our lovely sponsors? Okay, here we go.
I've always considered myself to be a caring head teacher who acts sensitively to support staff mental health. But what I found increasingly difficult was managing the negative impact on staff mental health when resolving issues related to their employment or daily work. Heartfelt Leadership has been developed by Teachwell Toolkit as a handbook to support head teachers to overcome the challenges of school improvement while supporting staff well-being. We know that difficult conversations can quickly turn into conflict if procedures are not fully transparent, understood and followed. Our handbook takes you through step-by-step processes while maintaining mutual respect, avoiding conflict and finding solutions.
At Bloomsbury Education, we're passionate about supporting teachers with high-quality professional development books from leading experts. Whether you're navigating your first crucial years as an early career teacher or a more experienced teacher looking to refresh your practice or take a step up into leadership, our award-winning books are here to help. We publish practical books to support teaching across primary and secondary, from the very best in research-led practice to trusted advice on inclusivity, behaviour and curriculum design. Visit the Bloomsbury Education website at bloomsbury.com/education to find out more and use code BLOOMTTR24 to save 20% on all education titles. Bloomsbury Education, books for every step of your teaching journey.
And thank you to our sponsors for helping to keep Teacher Talk Radio on the air. Okay, so we are talking here teacher hacks this evening. I'm sharing a couple of my very basic, I'd like to stress that if you've been listening, you're probably aware I'm not saying anything which is going to crash the internet this evening. These are just really simple little things I've been picking up over my goodness, nearly 20 years of teaching now. That is a scary thought, but it's true. If you have any hacks, we'd love to hear from you. If you're listening on the Podbeam app, you can message me here at Talk Teacher Radio. You can even call in. Yeah, it'd be lovely to have a chat with someone. So how do you keep organized? How do you keep efficient? How do you keep sane? What are your tried and tested hacks that you have that you think work just to make that life a little bit easier for us? So we have discussed already some organizational hacks. Again, very simple little things just to help, help me really just feel a little bit more calm, balanced and organized as I'm going about my everyday. We're going to have a look now at AI and IT. As I said earlier, I'm not, I'm a new convert to the AI, but I'm not particularly confident or experienced with it. So I would love to hear if there's anybody who is using AI at the moment or is using IT in a particular way that really helps them kind of speed up the efficiency, takes off some of the workload and the pressure. It would be lovely to hear from you. So, starting with some AI things, we use OneNote with our students. I don't know what you're using, but our OneNote is, well, I'm going to say now I love it, but at the start, I found the functionality was a little bit restrictive, and I really didn't like the way everything just kind of floated around the page. So, one of my sort of hacks that I do is I always start every OneNote page, which I number and put in numbered folders to again just help the kids stay really organized. And I tend to start every page as a table, because if you put a table in your OneNote page, then you can put whatever content you've got into individual rows and it stops them moving around. It kind of keeps everything really organized. So I'm trying to encourage the students as well to try that approach. I also make sure as well on the OneNote that oh, Tom, thank you. Just got a like there for the show. That is my first like. Touched. Thanks very much, Tom. So OneNote pages, I tend to like having a grid, and then I use the same format for everything. So for example, if I'm setting a task on the OneNote page, I'll put that in big bold letters, 16 font, and highlight it yellow. And every time I put a task, it'll always have exactly the same format, so the kids can really see nice and clearly, okay, this is a task, this is a task. I also insert a table inside the table cell. That's easy to do as well. That helps you because the one thing with OneNote is you can't put pictures and text very easily side by side. So if you insert a table into your table cell, then you could have one column for picture, one column for the text nearby it. You can hide the borders as well, so it doesn't look like a table. It all looks just very neat and well presented. And I tend to use a cell or a kind of row in the table, which I always highlight blue for student work. So if students are doing work, it's always a blue box. So I'll have a question and then a blue box to the side. And again, the blue box indicates to the students, this is where your bit of work goes. Like I said, I mean, it's nothing genius at all. I just feel like if I was a student, and I always do this when I'm teaching, if I was a student, what would I like? And I'd like to just get some sense of kind of familiarity and clarity, so that I know exactly how my work is supposed to be laid out. So, but I'd love to hear from other people here. I'm always I feel it's a bit sneaky, but I'm always trying to see what other teachers are doing with their OneNotes. It shouldn't be sneaky, but I do find myself kind of looking over the shoulders and think, oh, that's interesting how they've laid that out, the graphics they've got. So if you've got any good kind of teacher hacks for really, what's the word? Is it pimping your OneNote? If you've got any good hacks, please share them. I'd love to hear. All right, so we're going to talk AI. Now, I think there's probably some very good AI listeners out there, contributors. So if what I'm about to say, if this is very basic, which it will be, or inaccurate, please give me a shout. But this is what I've got so far. Class Companion. Students love it. I love it for marking. I find it so nice. I haven't tried it with Key Stage 3, but Key Stage 4 and 5, I really love it for uploading some kind of article, or it's a piece I've written, and then Class Companion will generate the questions for it. If you invest a little bit of more time, you can put in a matrix and get students to write an essay, and then Class Companion will give them this really lovely detailed feedback and a mark. Response from students so far has been really positive. I think they love getting this kind of immediate one-to-one feedback because it's kind of running as they're writing, and you write your answer, press whatever, enter, submit, and immediately you'll get this feedback. So the response there has been fairly positive. Come across a couple of niggles though. Set class companion for homework, and a couple of times students have only been able to get so far before it's kind of glitched out on them. Plus, you always run into that IT thing, don't you? Miss, I tried to do it, but it didn't work for me. So, yeah, I think there's pros and cons with it. If you have a good class companion hack, though, please share it with me because I'd love to hear. A couple of other things, again, people are talking about in the staff room and discussing DIFIT, DIFFIT. This generates a reading passage connected to a topic. So you could type in a topic like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that's not history related, which is my subject. Okay, biology, got it. You could type in photosynthesis, click on it, it'll come up with a reading passage. It comes up with keywords, a key summary. It'll give a set of multiple choice questions. And all of that lovely information generated by DIFIT can then be exported onto a prepared worksheet template. And you can choose an option. There's like huge amounts, a range of templates you can choose. And I think they're really well designed. I was really impressed when I saw it. I'm not going to lie, though, I haven't used this one yet. I tried setting it up for GCSE, got a little bit interrupted, haven't gone back since. So I think for me, DIFIT is one I just want to play around with a little bit more over the summer holidays. But if you've used DIFIT, what do you think? Do you like it? Does it work for the students? Okay. ChatGPT, yeah. How do you feel about ChatGPT? See, when I saw it, I got very excited and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Oh my goodness, I am living through the technological revolution because I'm born in the 1970s, so I'm living through it and it's very exciting. But then came out all the kind of, fear-mongering, students are going to cheat, what's happening to education. I have to say, I don't feel that way. I think this is something that is great for helping students. I've got a student who studies IB history, and she's really lacks confidence about what she's doing. And she sort of confessed to me that she was using ChatGPT to help her write her essays. And when we discussed it, I thought, actually, you're using it in a way that's just going to help your confidence. She wasn't using it and then just turning it in, because the good thing so far about ChatGPT is it can't write a good history essay. Yay! But the good thing about it is that it gave that student the confidence to know how to get started. And for her, that was really good. So I quite like ChatGPT. I've also been using it. Like I said, it can't write a good history essay. So I've been using it to mock up history responses. And then in class, we go through with the students and they all give it pretty low grades, which is also good because I'm like, yeah, don't use ChatGPT for your history essays. But again, it's been really useful for that. So I'm a big fan. I haven't used the paid version. I'm just still on the freebie one so far. Geography next door to me have been using Curipod. That is CURIPOD. I don't know if you guys are using that, but they are big fans of that. Generates an entire lesson for you. They say it's an absolute lifesaver. They really love it, use it quite a bit. For history, I haven't found anything yet. But that is the beauty of AI, isn't it? It's constantly evolving, constantly improving, we would hope. So who knows? Curipod could be one. Again, I feel a lot of this for me is a summer holiday task. I'm just going to have to sort of experiment a bit more and do a bit of trial and tested. Oh my goodness, that blackberry gin I had earlier. Hear that? Yeah. It's going to my head. Just teasing. You had a tiny bit. There's Audio Pen. Now, have you used Audio Pen? This is something you can get 3 minutes for free. I'm already thinking of a number of students I really want to introduce this to. Basically, what it does is you ramble away, a bit like I'm doing now, and then Audio Pen will restructure the text. It'll take out all the filler words, all the garbled ahs, all of that will go, and it will clean it up and present it into text. And I'm quite excited about this. I only found out about this very recently, but I have a number of students who really struggle with the sort of the reading and writing in history. And I think being able to just talk out their answer will be fantastic. I think this is the way it's going anyway, isn't it, with AI? So I'm quite excited to get Audio Pen up and started. So there's a couple of AI things. Like I said, I'm just starting out on this one. So I would love to hear if you have anything you would like to share on AI hacks. If you're listening on the Podbean app, again, you can message me here. You can even call in. And just if you've got anything you'd like to share. Oh, let's see. Have we got a new message coming up? Oh, okay. Maybe not. I'll come back to that one. But if you have, please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Okay. Let's go on now to behavior hacks. I would definitely love to hear if you have any good behavior hacks. Please call in. So behavioral issues. Yeah, I struggle a bit with this. Period 5 on a Friday, key stage 3, and I do find myself getting very irritable sometimes and having to really kind of suck it up. And it reminds me to come back to one of my sort of guiding principles that I told myself early on, and that is to see all behavior issues as a CPD learning opportunity. So when you're in the class and you're being driven to distraction by students who won't stop talking, who are back chatting. Oh my God, I can't stand the back chatting. I don't know what it boils my blood when I have a student who is rude to me and I just have to really suck it in. So if I could kind of remind myself to see everything that happens that irritates me or gets me wound up and just detach myself from it a little bit and think, no, this is a learning opportunity for you. How are you going to manage this? In fact, you should be grateful to this student for giving you this opportunity to practice some of these things you've been reading about and being taught during CPD. So that's the kind of mindset, mind shift that I have to remind myself of a couple of times. It's hard though, really hard. Behavior as well is, obviously, it's not just poor behavior, it's very good behavior. Stickers on the front of books. If you give out stickers or kind of merit stickers or anything like that, I tend to put it on the front of books. I used to put it in the book, into the assignment or the note taking, and isn't that wonderful? Then I thought, I forget. Unless I open the book and flick back, I'm going to forget how many stickers and how many kind of wow, aren't you brilliant this student has. So I now stick it on or give it to students to stick on the front of their books. And they quite like that because some of them like to fill up the whole of that cover with as many stickers as they can get. It gets a little bit of competition in there. And for me, every time I pull that book out of that box I have to organize it all in, I'm reminded of just how many stickers the student is getting. And that's a really good reminder just to be like, yeah, actually, the student does deserve, well, in our school, we have something called a wow card, which is, really amazing piece of work or really sustained effort. And it's a good reminder that maybe that student needs a postcard home or a wow card or a little bit of extra well done you attention. Did you ever watch Super Nanny? You're probably too young. I think Super Nanny was on in the 90s maybe. But you know what? Super Nanny was brilliant for teachers because Super Nanny taught me this one thing. She was this nanny, I can't even remember her name, but I can see her face. She was brilliant. She had this program where she'd go into kind of families who were really struggling with behavioral issues with their kids. And within a week, she's in there, she's kind of sorted out the situation and got this into like this perfect, kind of picture family. They're all happy and, wow, thank you, Super Nanny, you've saved us. And the one thing I learned from Super Nanny was this: pay attention to the good. So it pretty much boiled down to this. kids were acting up because they realized that's how they were getting attention from their parents. If I throw a tantrum, if I punch a wall, if I pull your hair, I'm going to get attention from you. And sure, it's not good attention, but it is still attention, and that's what I'm craving. And so Super Nanny was really trying to use this principle of, if you pay attention to the good that the children do, or that kind of quieter, well-behaved sibling in the background, and then the behavioral issues will try and transform to get that good attention from you. So this is really hard to do, but it's something I try and practice, is almost kind of not turn my back on bad behavior. I'm not going to say that, but just try and downplay how much attention it is taking from me in the classroom, so that I can be really focusing on, those sort of well-behaved, productive, conscientious students that just every day are coming in and doing what they do really well, and not trying to give too much attention to the kids who are sort of coming in looking for a fight or looking for a show every lesson. Okay, so we're going to have a little word from our lovely sponsors. Here we go.
This is Teachers Talk.
I've always considered myself to be a caring head teacher who acts sensitively to support staff mental health. But what I found increasingly difficult was managing the negative impact on staff mental health when resolving issues related to their employment or daily work. Heartfelt Leadership has been developed by Teachwell Toolkit as a handbook to support head teachers to overcome the challenges of school improvement while supporting staff well-being. We know that difficult conversations can quickly turn into conflict if procedures are not fully transparent, understood and followed. Our handbook takes you through step-by-step processes while maintaining mutual respect, avoiding conflict and finding solutions.
At Bloomsbury Education, we're passionate about supporting teachers with high-quality professional development books from leading experts. Whether you're navigating your first crucial years as an early career teacher, or a more experienced teacher looking to refresh your practice or take a step up into leadership, our award-winning books are here to help. We publish practical books to support teaching across primary and secondary, from the very best in research-led practice to trusted advice on inclusivity, behaviour and curriculum design. Visit the Bloomsbury Education website at bloomsbury.com/education to find out more, and use code BLOOMTTR24 to save 20% on all education titles. Bloomsbury Education, books for every step of your teaching journey.
Hello and welcome back. So we are looking at teacher hacks. We've been looking at organizational hacks, things to help minimize your workload with IT and AI, talking a little bit about behavior. And now we're going to talk about some time management hacks. This is something that I kind of need to do just to keep myself sane, really. So little tips I've picked up along the way. Again, this might sound really basic, but it's amazing just sometimes how the really simple things can make a big difference. And one of them for me is putting my lanyard or my keys in the same place every day. So this sounds a bit silly, but it's true. I whip off the lanyard at the end of the day and I immediately put it in the side pocket of my bag. And it's just that habitual thing of lanyards. I don't even think about it anymore. I'm walking to the car, whip it off in the side of my bag. And the beauty of this is it really minimizes the times that I have to look in my bag and think, lanyard, I can't get into school. Great, chaos. So I have a dog. Sorry about that. He's called Charlie. He's really cute. So lanyard put in the same place every day. It just becomes habitual, almost kind of subconscious. You don't even think about it. And it just helps you reduce that kind of stress in the morning of kind of, where's the lanyard? Or you've forgotten it, even worse. So time management as well. For me, I try as much as possible. Now, this isn't always easy, but I try always to have one day where I'm not working. So that weekend, it'll either be a Saturday or a Sunday, depending what's happening, but just one day where I'm not thinking about schoolwork. Actually, that's a lie. I always think about schoolwork, particularly at 3 a.m. in the morning, but one day where I'm not doing any schoolwork. And I can't always keep it up, mock marking or crazy, crazy times when there's lots going on. But it's nice just to have one day which is guilt-free and just think I don't have anything kind of in the background going on. Just enjoy the day. Just kind of enjoy not being at school and just having a bit of time to yourself. And I think that's really important. I also think coming into that, this kind of allocation of day, the kind of scheduling can be quite important as well. I say this to the students, A-level students, for example, look at your timetable and schedule those free periods. They're not free periods, kids. They are study periods. Schedule in your, extra history reading or your chemistry homework. Make sure that's going into your timetable. And I'm trying to do the same, or I do the same myself. When I've got the timetable for the year ahead, I set the homework days, or the school, to be fair, the school sets the homework days. And then I set the marking day, like when I'm going to return it to the students and when I'm going to mark it. For example, it might be, Wednesday period 5 is a free, that is my year 8 marking. Or, I've got Tuesday afternoon free from 3, that is my trip planning. And I think by compartmentalizing, can I say it? Compartmentalizing, there we go. The kind of tasks, the mundane weekly tasks, it just again makes me feel a little less stressed, a little less plate spinning, because I don't have to worry about the fact that I've got all this marking to do, because I think, no, worry about the year 8 marking on Tuesday period 3 or Wednesday evening. That's the time to worry about that marking. And then I know I'm going to hand it back as well. Like I say, obviously it doesn't always work, but I do find it just reduces the kind of, top heavy, everything's getting on top of me approach. Let's have a look at some other things. Oh, here's one. Okay, this one might stop you listening, but here we go. It depends on your hygiene levels. Wear your clothes 2 days running. Wasn't it Obama that said he tried to resist, he tried to sort of reduce, his kind of cognitive load by always having nothing but blue shirts or whatever. And he would just have this same kind of uniform and said, I don't have the headspace to be figuring out what I'm wearing every day. So I've tried to copy that a little bit by just thinking, reduce down how many times I've got to get up in the morning and think, shall I wear this? Oh, no, it's not ironed. Oh, it's got a dirty bit there. Blah, blah, blah. So instead, I just have my clothes and I wear them 2 days running. I obviously get changed as soon as I come home, so I'm not kind of, making it too manky for myself. But again, it just reduces a little bit of that kind of morning stress and what you've got in your head. So little bits. This one might be a little bit controversial. Challenge inefficiency. How many times do you hear teachers in the staff room complaining about, ridiculous, over-the-top data collection, or the fact that this doesn't work and no one's ever done anything about it, or we're having to do this, but we only just saw the parents the week before? It is the constant kind of teacher chatter, I guess, of pretty much every staff room I've been in, and that's been a few. And I think we have to kind of be brave here and challenge inefficiency as and when we see it, not in a aggressive or belligerent way, obviously, but in a kind of, we're all in this together. Fundamentally, at the end of the day, our guiding principle is what is best for the students. And stressed out, frazzled teachers is not best for the students. So I think when I see things that are inefficient, I do feel quite strong about just saying, this isn't working. Can we review this? I don't always get the answer I want, but it is important, I think, to have that kind of, it's not just a big whinge fest behind closed doors. I think if there is an issue, things don't progress, things don't get better by sort of talking to the coffee machine about it. We've got to let senior management know these things are not working, and this is what it's like on the ground, guys, and this is, let's have a two-way conversation about this. But on the other hand, whinging, just taking a little sidestep here, teacher whinging, I think it's really important. I feel as a teacher, I do a lot of whinging, and I used to feel a bit bad about that, like, kind of look on the positive. And then I thought, no, embrace the whinging. It is a stress releaser. And by whinging, to whoever wants to listen, whoever is nearest the coffee machine, I get it out my system. I feel a bit better. Listening to others whinging, okay, it's not fun, obviously, but, sympathetic nod. I think it's a necessary part of being a teacher. Okay, and my last one for time management here. This is actually from Brian Tracy, who I think is a kind of business productivity guru. And he said that Mark Twain, famous American author, once said that if the first thing you do each morning is to eat a live frog, you can go through the day with the satisfaction of knowing it's probably the worst thing that is going to happen to you all day long. In other words, eat your frog. Get that job that you hate, the one that you think, oh, I've got to email that parent, whatever it is, the job you're not looking forward to, get that job out the way first. It's something that's not easy to do, takes a bit of self-discipline, and you've got to keep on doing it. Okay, and then again, a bit like my lanyard in my side pocket, it becomes habitual. You just eat your frog, get it out the way, and the rest of the day, you can relax a little bit, safe in the knowledge you've done the toughest, most unlooked forward to job of the day. It is out of the way. So that's my little tips there. Okay, lastly then, we're going to talk about some well-being hacks. And we had a sort of response here from Crystal, who said, I've got a very British approach. But my approach is you take a deep breath, you get a cup of tea, I hear you, Crystal, and a biscuit. It's time consuming. It's time consuming. Exercise, time consuming, but I also find exercise really helps. And Crystal, I kind of agree with you here. We have a number of teachers who every lunchtime or most lunchtimes, they take a walk outside. Now, it is my continued, and I've had it for about 2 years, my continued resolution to join them one day. I've done it about 3 times, but always at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year when things are kind of settling down a bit. But it is transformational, especially when you've got lovely spring and you go out. We're blessed where I work to have beautiful fields, but even just going outside the school grounds or around the school grounds can really just make you feel really refreshed. And are you somebody who likes to take a bit of exercise and make a bit of space for yourself in the day? Do you do that? Maybe the school gym. Maybe you go down to the gym. We've got a lot of teachers at our school who take a morning swim, and they say that is just lovely. They come in feeling really revitalized. So yeah, a little bit of exercise. And also, I think with well-being, it's important to understand your own preferences and your own needs. And I'm going to share with you a little anecdote that sort of made me realize the kind of needs I have in order to stay sort of nice and calm and to not doubt myself by having that type of personality. I had a colleague, and we were talking about workloads, obviously, as teachers, and having a bit of a kind of like, oh God, this is exhausting. How do we do this? Da, da, da. And he was saying, I just don't know if I can keep doing this all the time. I just feel utterly exhausted. And I realized that he, as he's my colleague, that he was pretty much every weekend either partying a lot, having people over. He just seemed very, very busy at the weekend. And so I sort of tentatively suggested, well, is it maybe just you need a weekend to kind of cope with some of the things, like the tasks that you're saying getting on top of you? And he said, no, actually, the weekends for me, I need to be around people. I need to be busy and social. That for me regenerates it. It's like that charges my batteries. That really helps me prepare for the week ahead. Without that, I'd be a mess. Now, see, for me, I was kind of surprised to hear that because I'm the opposite. If somebody wants to come and stay at my house in the middle of term time, oh, okay. But I'm kind of desperate for them to leave by midday Sunday so I can get my kind of relaxation bit in and prepare for the week ahead. I'm almost exactly the opposite to this colleague. I'm somebody who needs to find my dark little corner and just kind of have a bit of time to myself, and that re-energizes me. I actually feel drained, I guess, by having a lot of, I mean, it's lovely to have friends around, but I also find it quite draining. And therefore I can't really cope with it too much. But as I said, having people to stay during term time, because I find that exhausting. So when I kind of discussed that with my colleague, it made me feel actually it's okay to feel like that. There are totally different personality types, and we've all got different ways of relaxing, and that's okay. So I think just find what works for you and be okay with it, embrace it. And talking of relaxing, I have a little treat for you. Are you ready? Well, we talk a lot about well-being and mental health at the moment, and with me now I've got a hypnotherapist, Jason. Evening, Jason.
Good evening.
And Jason is going to talk us through a little bit about what hypnotherapy does for mental health and well-being. And then at the end of the session, you're going to treat us to a guided meditation. Is that correct?
That is, yes.
Lovely. So when that starts, if you're listening, make sure you are not driving or operating machinery on a position of any kind of responsibility, because the likelihood it may send you a little bit to sleep, which is nice if you are listening, because it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday here. And I don't know about you, but that for me is getting close to Betty Buy's time. So Jason, tell us more about hypnotherapy. I mean, is this kind of hypnotism? Are we talking turning into elephants on stage? Is this the kind of thing that's going on here? What is hypnotherapy?
Well, that's quite I'm regularly asked that question, Sam. It's certainly nothing to do with stage hypnotism. That's more about the show. They always pick people specifically for the purpose for stage hypnotism. And normally people are panicked by the lights, and when they're in front of a big crowd, they tend to be drawn towards the hypnotist, and that's how they tend to use suggestion then, just to encourage them to do various things. But no, hypnotherapy is very similar to other forms of talking therapy. We're generally looking at getting people using their brains in a more positive way, thinking about things in a more positive way. And I love the bit you mentioned earlier about being interactive and being active in a positive way, going for walks and things like that. All of these things are great for getting us operating in a more positive way and thinking. And we use hypnotherapy just to help people to reframe things. So I regularly get people with anxiety, with depression, fears and phobias. And often these are sort of just them using their brains in a slightly inefficient way. And so we reframe these things so that they get to think about things more positively.
So am I right in thinking this isn't about then kind of lying on a couch and, going back to childhood and rediscussing trauma? It's not that you're doing.
We're much more interested in moving forward. So it's getting people to use their imagination in a more positive way. I think it would help if I just briefly explained how your brain works. And whilst I'm certainly not a neuroscientist, I think having a basic understanding of how anxieties are created can often lead to quite profound changes for people. So basically, you've got two main parts to your brain: your intellectual part of your brain, your conscious part of your brain, which is actually attached to a vast intellectual resource called the intellectual mind. And when we operate from this part of the brain, well, we generally get things right in life. It's also a positive part of the brain. But the original primitive part of your brain, called the amygdala, is often referred to as the fight-flight response part of the brain. That's when we operate from that part of the brain, it's a bit more of a basic part of the brain. It holds a lot of our sort of primitive feelings and thought processes. It's attached to the hippocampus, which holds our sort of primitive and sometimes inappropriate behavioural patterns, and also attached to the hypothalamus, which regulates chemical responses in the body and the mind. And if you think about it, this primitive original part of your brain, well, it had to be on high alert all the time. Back in those days, we were always looking out for wild animals and things like that. And this is where we create anxieties. And obviously, it's of benefit to us to be on high alert when we're confronted by something dangerous. But often we make sort of slightly inappropriate connections, and might get anxious over things like exams coming up for students. We might get anxious over our workload when we're at work. We might get anxious over meetings that are coming up. Well, I think hypnotherapy helps enormously with this, because it helps us. We encourage that positive imagination, picturing things exactly how we want them to be, and discussing that. And that's normally the first part of a hypnotherapy session. And the second part, we get people nicely relaxed. And then just through a few basic little bits of suggestion when we're in a very relaxed state, well, this can help profoundly in people moving forward and making changes.
So it sounds like it's all about getting into a relaxed state where you can make suggestions that's going to help us reframe our approaches.
Absolutely. I think the term reframe is quite key when it comes to hypnotherapy. But there's a period of our sleep pattern actually called rapid eye movement sleep. And this is our sort of programming and learning part of our sleep. And what we try to do during the second part of a hypnotherapy session is actually get people almost into that rapid eye movement stage of sleep, the dream state. And when we use metaphors, well, we tend to connect to metaphors a bit more easily when we're in a nice relaxed state. It's how we tend to dream. And so it's when we get them into a nice deep relaxation, that's when a few gentle suggestions can really have profound consequences.
Because I guess then you're not in that kind of alert mental state where you're necessarily sort of challenging or trying to work your way logically through what's being suggested. So is that right, that you're slightly more kind of vulnerable to what you're suggesting?
No, I think vulnerable would be the wrong word. What we do normally in a hypnotherapy session is the first part is that they come up with all the answers. So they'll come up with, just through questioning, often you can get people to come up with their own answers to their problems. So just for an example, if someone has a real anxiety over driving a car, then I'll ask them, well, how do they want to feel when they're driving the car, and get them to build up this lovely picture of their ideal state when they're driving a car. And then during the relaxation stage, the guided meditation, when they're in a lovely relaxed state, I'll just almost relay this information back to them. And it helps to sort of reinforce these lovely mental images that they've already created.
Okay, so I see it's coming from them, really, then.
It's very much coming from them. They are the experts in their own brain. I certainly don't know what they're thinking. So it's about them coming up with their own suggestions. And then during the deep state of relaxation, I just basically relay it back to them in metaphor, normally in metaphor.
Okay, Jason, well, you very kindly suggested to do a guided meditation. We're going to have a listen to that. But before we do, we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors.
I've always considered myself to be a caring head teacher who acts sensitively to support staff mental health. But what I found increasingly difficult was managing the negative impact on staff mental health when resolving issues related to their employment or daily work. Heartfelt Leadership has been developed by Teachwell Toolkit as a handbook to support head teachers to overcome the challenges of school improvement while supporting staff well-being. We know that difficult conversations can quickly turn into conflict if procedures are not fully transparent, understood and followed. Our handbook takes you through step-by-step processes while maintaining mutual respect, avoiding conflict and finding solutions.
At Bloomsbury Education, we're passionate about supporting teachers with high-quality professional development books from leading experts. Whether you're navigating your first crucial years as an early career teacher or a more experienced teacher looking to refresh your practice or take a step up into leadership, our award-winning books are here to help. We publish practical books to support teaching across primary and secondary, from the very best in research-led practice to trusted advice on inclusivity, behaviour and curriculum design. Visit the Bloomsbury Education website at bloomsbury.com/education to find out more and use code BLOOMTTR24 to save 20% on all education titles. Bloomsbury Education, books for every step of your teaching journey.
Thank you to our sponsors. And here at Teachers Talk Radio, we have a special little treat coming up for you now. So it's time to kick back, take your shoes off, relax. We're going to give you a guided meditation. And thank you very much for listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Okay, Jason, are you ready?
Mm-hmm. So it's time for a little bedtime story. So just make sure you're in a nice, comfortable position. Maybe lying down on the couch or on the bed. And make sure your head is nice and supported. And it's a bit of time just for yourself now. Just to relax. And we're just going to start off just by relaxing some of the muscles of the body. Just starting off from the very top of the head. Just thinking about those little muscles of the scalp and the skin of your scalp. And just allow that area just to let go and relax. And now all the muscles of your face, you can just let them go slack. Your forehead and your closed eyes and eyelids. And the cheeks and your mouth and jaw muscles. It's a lovely feeling when you just let your face totally relax. You might feel the skin just settling and smoothing out. Unclenching the teeth and relaxing the jaw muscles. And it's something you can do whenever you want to. Just spend a couple of minutes just focusing on the muscles of the face. And when we physically relax, well, it helps us mentally relax too. Thinking about your neck and shoulder muscles now. As you move into the tops of your arms. Just letting all the tension drain away. As you think down through your elbows, into your forearms, and down through the wrists, and into the hands, right the way down to the very tips of your thumbs and fingers. Just feeling all the muscles let go and relax. And now just focusing on your breathing. Breathing nice and steadily. As you feel yourself just relaxing more and more. As you move down now into the chest area, just feeling all the stress just drain away. As you think down to your stomach muscles. And now your back, focusing on those long muscles, either side of the spine. And your waist. As you move down through your thigh muscles, and down through the knees, and into the shins and calves. Just allowing all those areas to relax and let go. As you think down through your ankles and through your feet, to the very tips of your toes. Just feeling all those muscles of your body beautifully relaxed and so very comfortable. And if you were to notice how relaxed you currently feel in your body, with your thoughts, and if you were to think about relaxation as having different levels, how we know the difference between being a little relaxed and completely relaxed. 2 points separated by different levels, perhaps many different levels, all the way down to being as relaxed as you could possibly imagine. When you might begin to notice, just by being curious, you might begin to notice what changes, what stays the same, as you begin to relax more and more. And in whatever way you want to imagine this, just imagine yourself sinking down to the next level. And again, just noticing what changes, what stays the same. As you gently sink down to the next level, just your part of your journey, just gently sinking down through these levels, enjoying the feelings. And because you're relaxing, this releases endorphins into the bloodstream, bringing us the good feelings that we experience, hormones that rejuvenate, cleanse. So as you allow yourself just to sink to the level that's just right for you today, just let your mind drift back over the past few days, knowing that our mind notices far more than potentially we're aware of. Reflecting back over the past few days, just maybe think of 1 or 2 things that brought you something, things that might be considered gifts to you. 1 or 2 moments that when you think about it brought you something, and everyone's no different in what they notice. Could be something someone said or did. Maybe something in nature that caught your attention. A moment of beauty, learning, a smile, laughter. It doesn't really matter what the nature of these things are, whether they're big or small. Just allow your mind the time to find these things, and maybe just wondering what part you had in bringing them into your life. It might not always seem obvious how you're connected to these things. You might even find that each time you do this, where your mind finds it easier and easier to find these things. And neither of us know when you'll notice something through the day maybe, that later you might regard as being a gift, and then it might start to happen more often. It's often the case that people are surprised where this begins to lead. New directions, new opportunities, new feelings about oneself. All the benefits of simply noticing the good things in life. So as your mind becomes more accustomed to noticing these things, You might start noticing yourself making positive changes, becoming more and more of who you want to be, doing more and more of what you want to do. And as you relax there, just enjoying these moments, you can just let your mind drift and dream. I'd just like you to imagine something for me. You're standing at the top of 10 steps. Beautiful stairs in an old stately home. Somewhere you've been before, maybe. Maybe somewhere you've seen in a film. Or perhaps it's somewhere new. Somewhere that you're just creating for yourself. And you know that when you make your way down those stairs, you're going to feel yourself relaxing more and more. And at the bottom of the steps, well, you can see that there's a short corridor that leads to a door. Now, it's a door to a very special place. It's a room where no one ever goes but you. And in that room, you can feel just exactly as you want to feel here today. Relaxed, refreshed, and perfectly at ease. And to find this place, you just need to make your way down those stairs. Just taking the first step down now. Taking you closer to the room at the bottom. Stepping down to 9. Taking another step down. And you get down to the third step down, and you can feel that there's a banister just next to you, and you can hold on to that. It feels strong and solid. It's worn smooth by years of use. And you realise that you've been down this stairway many, many times before. And that this room at the bottom just exists inside you already, ready to be accessed, to gain the strength and understanding that you already possess. And you feel yourself just floating down those stairs. You're halfway down now. And you see a picture on the wall beside you. A picture that inspires you as you watch it forming. I don't know if it's a picture or maybe a photograph of someone you know, someone you love maybe, or a painting of a special place that gives you peace or confidence. Somewhere special you've been, or somewhere you know, or perhaps it's still just a swirling mass of colour that hasn't quite formed yet, creating a feeling of strength that comes to you directly deep from within your subconscious, allowing you to trust in this process as you start moving down the stairs again. Almost feels like you're walking on a cushion of air, not quite touching the steps anymore, just floating down the last few steps until you reach the bottom. Every muscle, every fibre of your being just perfectly at ease. And you make your way along the corridor, and it's lined with pictures. Pictures of people or places that inspire you, that keep you safe. Reminders of all the success that you've already achieved. Certificates, smiling faces of friends and family and loved ones. And as you walk down along the corridor, you walk past an old clock, a grandfather clock. And you can hear it ticking, just marking the gentle passing of time. And as you stop and look at the hands on the face, you suddenly understand. You understand that the sound of the tick is just the sound of a moment passing, and that the space in between the ticks is where we truly exist. The space in between the ticks is the very moment in which all is real. And you can choose to place your mind in that space now, as you watch the hands slowly moving around the face. Realizing that although they've been round so many times, every second of every minute of every hour, for days and weeks and months, those hands, well, they can only tell you of the very moment in which you truly exist, which is now, because the past is gone, and gone with it is any opportunity to change what's happened. And yet you understand that the wonderful truth is that we don't have to change the past. You've coped with and survived everything from your past, and the future, well, the future, that's just a dream. It's a dream that you can colour with bright, clear possibility. You can choose to imagine your future just exactly as you want it to be. You can fill it with joy and happiness and all the success that you truly deserve. But it all begins in this very moment, where all is real, in between the ticks of the clock. And before you move on from the clock in front of you, you can see your reflection in the glass window of the cabinet as the pendulum swings back and forth, deep inside, back and forth. You catch your reflection and notice that something has changed. As you stand reflected in that glass, something has already changed. You can't quite catch what it is. Perhaps it's that you're standing more confidently. Or maybe there's a smile on your face. Or happiness in your eyes. A joy radiating from you that you can witness in that reflection of yourself now. This inspires you as you turn and move forward, floating down along that corridor to the door of that room where no one ever goes but you. That room in which you can discover so much about yourself. Now you'll find that comfort, peace, and understanding that already exists deep inside you. For in that room, you can imagine and create and rehearse. Imagine your future exactly as you want it to be, and be the person that you seek to be, the person you truly are. But before you open that door to that room, you just study it and catch its every detail. You notice its size, its shape, its colour, its texture. Will it open towards you or away? Will it creak or glide open? Is it light or heavy? Is it an old door? Maybe a new one? And you can see the handle. Before you reach out to open the door, will you notice the lock? And I wonder where the key is. Is it in your pocket? Maybe it's hanging around your neck on a long length of twine. Or maybe it's already in your hand. An old ornate brass key that's cool to touch, but warming as you hold it in your hand. Well, wherever the key is, you know that this room is never locked to you. It's always accessible to you now. You just need to remember that it exists deep inside you. Because to open the door, you simply use your mind. Your mind is the key that unlocks the door. And you find yourself stepping through into a room that is exactly as you choose it to be. All around you flows a feeling of safety and comfort, bringing a strength that flows through you and radiates from you, inspiring you to trust in the positive future that you create for yourself. Each day you feel more confident, more capable, more connected with all the inner skills and resources that are waiting here now for you to tap into and enjoy.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Jason. And thank you to you for listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Have a great Sunday. You have deserved it.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.